Good morning, children. Yeah, today we are going to read a story which happened long ago. The importance of the story is such a great one that even today also it is published in your 10th class book. Yeah. So from this picture you know very well that we are going to talk about Gautama Buddha. Yes, the sermon at Benares. Right. So what is that he gave, the sermon he gave at Benares? That is what we are going to read today. So what is sermon? Sermon is nothing but the what did he say regarding the spiritual or morality. Okay, and this is the story written by Betty Renshaw. Let us know about her. Yes, Betty Louise Renshaw Barber was born in Shannon, Mississippi on September 3rd, 1927 to PC and Ilian Renshaw. After graduating valedictorian from Shannon High School, she went on to obtain her Bachelor of Arts degree from Mississippi College and later a Master of Arts from Mississippi University for Women. She taught at the preschool level for several years and eventually she was able to pass her experiences on to others by teaching preschool teachers. She also taught preschool education for several years at Mississippi College. Betty had a huge heart for the Lord and served as a Sunday school teacher at the First Baptist Church. So, she has a lot of spiritual knowledge. So, in her letters, she used to write, after writing whatever she wanted to write, in the ending, she used to tell that God loves you and so do I. So, she had a feeling that she knew very well that God loved each and everybody without any partiality, no conditions. Unconditional love, it's what God is going to give us. And her intention was to tell that even she also loves you that much. Now, let us go back to the textbook. Yeah. Before you read, let us see what is the activity they have given us. Use a dictionary and ask your teacher's help as you discuss the following questions in group. What is a sermon? So what is a sermon? And is it different from a lecture or a talk? Yes, it is definitely different from that. And can this word also be used in a negative way or as a joke, as in my mother's sermon about getting my work done on time? Yes, generally this sermon word is used in a negative way only as a joke. Whenever somebody tells you, what are you doing this? Can't you do this properly? Why don't you do this in this way? If somebody started giving you the instructions, you will tell, stop sermonizing, right? That's how it is used in a negative way. Generally, grandparents, they will be telling you, giving you advices and you take that as a sermon in a negative way. Now, these are the words which are there in this lesson and find out the meanings of the words and phrases given in the textbook. So, when you are reading the lesson, one more time, find out the meanings. Because these words are there in the textbook and I will be telling you when we are dealing with the lesson. Have you heard of the Sermon on the Mount? Who delivered it? Would you like to know about that? Yes. Yes, this is the picture. Now I need not tell you who is the person sermonizing the people and where they are and what he would be teaching them, right? The picture is clearly telling you everything. This is Jesus Christ and he is telling all the people about that. Yes, let us go back to the textbook again. Who do you think delivered a sermon at Benares? Who do you think? Yes, it was Gautam Buddha. It is in the first part you saw him, right? Now, Gautam Buddha, 563 BC, 483 BC, that was his time where he was alive, began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama in northern India. So, Gautam Buddha, he started his life as a prince, means son of a king. and he was named as Siddhartha Gautama, and he lived in northern India. At 12, he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and 4 years later he returned home to marry a princess. So he went there at the age of 16. He went to a school to get education on Hindu sacred scripts, and after 4 years, after getting educated, after 4 years, when he was 20 years old, he came back and married princess. Then they had a son and lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. So he enjoyed all that royal thing, everything for 10 years, which was as a princess. He lived in that for 10 years, which means he was enjoying all kinds of the royalty there. Okay. At about the age of 25, the prince, heretofore shielded from the sufferings of the world, while out hunting, chanced upon a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. So he was there in the palace for 10 years. 4 years he was there. After getting education, he came back and got married, and 10 years he was, that means almost 30 years, he did not know what is happening outside the palace. So once he came out at the age of 25, when he came out, till then he was shielded. He was there in the royalty and he did not know about the sufferings of the human beings. So when he came out, while out hunting, so what did he see? First he saw a sick man, and then he saw aged man, and then dead man, funeral procession, and then a monk begging for alms. See, he saw all those things. These sights so moved him that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. So what all he saw there, those are not happy scenes. Those were the people were suffering. When the people, the funeral procession was going on, all the people were crying. So all the scenes, whatever he saw, they were really tragic things, and these sights moved him a lot, and he went out into the world to seek enlightenment and concerning the sorrows of what all he has seen there. So he wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree. So he went and sat under a peepal tree where he owed. He took an oath. So what is that oath he had taken? Until enlightenment came, he took an oath. Until enlightenment came, he is not moving away from that tree. That is the oath he had taken. Enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree as Bodhi tree, tree of wisdom, and began to teach and to share his new understandings. So he went there and he sat, and 7 days over. After 7th day, he got that enlightenment, and then he named that tree as Bodhi Vriksham, Bodhi tree, which means the tree of knowledge. And he started to teach everybody the knowledge what he got and share his new understandings to everybody. So at that point, he became known as the Buddha, the awakened or the enlightened soul. So the meaning of Buddha, at that time he was called as Buddha, and the meaning of Buddha was the awakened or the enlightened, the person who was awakened or the person who was enlightened. Okay, the Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares, most holy of the dripping places on the river Ganges. That sermon has been preserved and is given here. So the sermon what he gave on the Ganges, on the river Ganges, is the one which is given now. That sermon is given now for you in this lesson. Sermon means the religious or the moral talk given by Gautama Buddha. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one inscrutable kind of suffering. So inscrutable means something which cannot be understood. So why the people are suffering, what is happening to them, when, how they can come out of that. So all these things were there. So it reflects Buddha's wisdom about this suffering, okay, which cannot be understood by anybody. Now what is that? What happened? It is there. Kisa Gautami had an only son and he died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. And the people said, she has lost her senses. The boy is dead. So Kisa Gautami is one lady and she had only one son. And what happened? That son died. So she was feeling very sad because of the son's death. So in her grief, she carried the dead child and went to everybody, all the neighbors, asking them, please give some medicine to my son. He may be alive, he may come back to life. Please give some medicine. So she started going around and asking everybody. And everybody thought that she had lost her senses. And the boy is dead. How can anybody bring back a person who was dead? At length, Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her request, I cannot give thee medicine for thy child, but I know a physician who can. So, at length, continuously after going up, after some time, Kisa Gautami met a man. And this man gave little bit positive reply to her. What did he say? I cannot give thee medicine. Thee means you. I cannot give you medicine for thy child, for your child. Thee and thy are very old words. So, I cannot give you the medicine for your child. But I know a physician who can give. So, I will tell you and you can go to that person and he can give you that medicine. And the girl said, pray thee, sir, please, sir, pray thee, pray, tell me, sir, who is this? So, she asked, who is that person? And the man replied, go to Sakyamuni, the Buddha. So, he told this Kisa Gautami to go to Gautama Buddha. Then what happened? Kisa Gautami repaired to the Buddha and cried, Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my son. So she went there. Repaired means went to him, and that was in a stylistic way of writing that. So she went there and she asked him, Lord and Master, give me medicine that will cure my son. And then the Buddha answered, I want a handful of mustard seed. And when the girl, in her joy, promised to procure it, the Buddha added, the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent or friend. So when she told, first thing Gautama Buddha told is, I just want one handful of mustard seeds. Then immediately the girl felt very happy and she said, yes, I'll go and bring. Then he added, see, you must bring that handful of mustard seeds from the house where no one has lost a child or a husband or parent or friend. Nobody should be dead in that family. From that house you should get handful of mustard. Poor Kisa Gautami now went from house to house and the people pitied her and said, here is the mustard seed, take it. But when she asked, did a son or a daughter or a father or mother die in your family? They answered her, alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief. And there was no house, but some beloved one had died in it. So she went there and asked, give me just one handful of mustard. So taking pity on her, they started giving her. So when they gave her, she immediately asked, did anyone in your family die? Then they said, please don't remind about that. Because those who are alive are less, those who died are many. Don't remind us of that for the tragic thing. Then she went away without taking them. And there was no house, but some beloved or the one did not die, had died in it. No house was there. Then Kisa Gautami became weary and hopeless and sat down at the wayside watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. So she was really lost all the hope, and with lot of weary and hopelessness just sat there on the path and started looking at the lights of the city. And what those lights were doing, they were flickered and then extinguished. No light was there. At last, the darkness of the night reigned everywhere. So there was darkness everywhere because that light was put out. And she considered the fate of men that their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. So then she understood that this is just like the lives of human beings whose life will flicker and then it will extinguish. It will be put out again. And she thought of herself, how selfish am I in my grief? Death is common to all. Yet in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality, who has surrendered all selfishness. So now, looking at that, she understood that flickering of the light and then extinguishing the light, that she started relating that to the human life. Yes, human lives are also same thing. As long as the light is there, they are alive. Once the light, they extinguish. That means death is there. Then she started telling to herself, how foolish am I? Why am I crying like that? Death is common to everybody. Those who are alive, they must die. Yet in this valley of desolation means the area which is filled with deep sorrow, that is on the earth. Sorrow, there is a path that leads him to immortality. In this sorrowful, in the place which is filled with deep sorrow, even in that place also, there is a path, there is a way that is leading to immortality. So the person can be immortal. He can win the death. How? Who has surrendered all selfishness. So if you are not selfish at all, if you are helping everybody without thinking of yourself, then you will be alive forever. That is the immortality the person will be getting. That is what she understood when she was looking at that. So death is common to all, and yet in this area which is filled with deep sorrow, there is a path which leads to immortality, which leads to no death at all. And that path is nothing but following the value of without being selfish. If they surrender the selfishness, if they start helping others, then they will reach that immortality. As long as you are selfishness, you cannot win that immortality. That's what she understood. Buddha said, the life of mortals in this world is troubled and brief and combined with pain. So, the life of all the mortals, whoever are mortals means all the human beings, whoever are going to die, in this world is full of troubles and combined with lot of pain. Yes, it is there. For is not any means by which those who that have been born can avoid dying. So, you cannot avoid death. After reaching old age, there is death. If not, some cases young age also, but in many cases when you are becoming old, death is there. Of such a nature are living human beings. Human beings are of that nature. So, what is that? For there is not any means by which those can have been born can avoid dying. Nobody can avoid this death. But when they are going to die, they will be dying after reaching their old age. Death is there, and this is there for all living beings. As ripe fruits are early in danger of falling, so mortals when born are always in danger of death. So when the fruit on the tree is ripe, what happens? It falls down. In the same way, mortals when born are always in danger of death. Once you are born, you are going to die. We don't know when. That's it. As all the earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken, so is the life of mortals. So first example, he had taken up the ripe fruit, which is very ripe, it has to fall. In the same way, human beings, once they are born, they are going to die. Second one, this potter, they make all the vessels with mud, but you can't use a pot forever. They are going to be broken. In the same way, life of mortals, both young and adult, both those who are fools and those who are wise, all fall into the power of death. All are subject to death. So whether you are young or you are adult or you are old, you are going to die. And those who are very wise and those who are fools, they are also going to die. So they are going to fall to the power of death. Death is so powerful that it will take everybody. Of those who overcome by death depart from life, a father cannot save his son nor kinsmen their relations. So here he is telling, if a father of those who overcame by death, person who died, depart from life, died, and a father cannot save his son. My father is there in that world, he will save me, I will be living forever. No, not even that father can save you. A father cannot save his son, nor a king can save his relatives from the power of death. Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one mortals are carried off like an ox that is led by the slaughter. Mark, remember, what is it telling? All the relatives, while all the relatives are looking on and lamenting, crying when the person is dead, so one by one all those people also will be dead only. Will be just like an ox that is led by the slaughter. Slaughter will be taking that ox one by one to kill. In the same way, death also will be taking everybody. Now they are crying because one person was dead. But in no time even that the death is going to take even them also. So the world is afflicted with death and decay. Therefore, the wise do not grieve knowing the terms of the world. So this entire world is affected, suffering of disease and pain. Okay. Oh, the entire world is there afflicted with pain, death, decay. So wise people will not grieve, will not cry over the death, because they know all the rules of the God, terms of the world. Once they are going to take the birth, they are going to die. But the question is, when? That we don't know. Not from weeping, nor from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. On the contrary, his pain will be greater and his body will suffer. So, look at that what he is telling here. Not from weeping. So, if you, yes, my relative died, and if I sit there and start crying for days together, months together, years together, what is happening? Not from weeping or from grieving will anyway obtain the peace of mind. You are not going to get any peace of mind, and you are not going to get that person back. Right? You are not going to obtain any peace. On the contrary, his pain will be greater and his body will suffer. Because of that crying, because of that grief, all that, your body, you are suffering a lot. You are making your body suffer a lot. Apart that, nothing is going to happen. There isn't any rule that if a person is dead, we have to cry for so many days. No. His pain will be the greater than his body. greater and his body will suffer. Ultimately, if you cry, you are making the body suffer and you cannot bring that person back. So, you have to move forward. He will make himself sick and pale, yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. If you cry for years together, are you going to get back the dead person? No, you cannot do that. Instead of that, what you are doing? You will make yourself sick and pale. That sickness and the paleness will appear in your face and you will become very sick. But you cannot bring the dead person back into the life. He who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complaint and grief. So, if you want to be at peace, if you don't want to suffer, if you don't want to cry, if you want to lead a happy and healthy life, first thing is, what is it? Draw out the arrow of lamentation. Take away the arrow of lamentation from your body, and also the complaint and the grief. If you take away all those arrows, then you can lead a peaceful and happy life. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. Composed, satisfied with whatever is there. If you are composed, if you are happy with whatever you have in your life, if you don't start feeling sad for something what you lost, then you are going to lead a peaceful and happy life. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. Will be leading a very peaceful life in her life. Had a very peaceful life. Okay. So this is what that teacher gave that story. Betty Rena. Okay. And this is collected from Values and Voices. And she was from a college reader. Okay, children. Thank you. And you are going to do all the exercises whatever are there in that lesson. Okay.